everyone, it's me, Robert, also known as the Fallen 835, back for another review. And believe it or not counting this week, it is now 6 weeks to Auto Assembly 2013. That's right, 6 weeks. Wow, it is. It's going to go fast, I reckon. But as during the next 6 weeks, I will be reviewing Transformers that I got at last year's AA. I will also be doing showing you some footage I took from last year, and I'll also be doing a pre-AA video, which will be out next week. So it's sort of like my countdown to Auto Assembly. So each week you're going to get a video with me doing one of those 3 things. And so to start it off, I thought I'd review a character and a figure which many people know, many people like, and many people want. And that is Armada Megatron. So, quick look at the bio. Now, in Armada, Megatron's goal is slightly different. Unlike having many little goals, such as G1, and many schemes and plans that necessarily don't go to fruition, in Armada, Megatron's got an overall plan, and that is to gain, or at least to get most of the minicons, if not all of the minicons, that are located on Earth, so that he can become powerful, and he can go back to Cybertron, crush the Autobot resistance, and take over the planet for himself. And throughout the show, he mainly sticks to this plan, even when he discovers the other 3 minicon teams, which make up the Star Saber, the Requiem Blaster, and the Skyboom Shield. And throughout several episodes, these 3 minicon teams go back to each faction, vice versa, during each battles, but eventually end up in the hands of Megatron. Now, once Megatron has these 3 minicon teams, he then constructs a spaceship on the moon using the wreckage of the crashed minicon spaceship, which he then uses all 3 of the minicon teams to power its main weapon, which he plans to fire it at the Earth to destroy any living thing on it. However, Optimus Prime, being the heroic Autobot that he is, gets in the way and basically absorbs the energy of the weapon, which causes him to be killed. Now, this is a rare occurrence. If you think back across all of the Transformers series, Megatron killing Prime, even though it was indirectly, that doesn't happen a lot. It happened in G1, in the movie, it happened in Armada, but that's about it. It didn't happen in Energon, didn't happen in RID, didn't happen in Cybertron, didn't happen in Animated or Prime. So it's a rare occurrence. It did happen in the movies, but no one cares about those, so we're not even going to go into that. And so after Prime is killed, Megatron goes back to Cybertron, and thus begins the Unicron battles. But I'll talk more about Megatron's character when we're actually transforming the figure. And now, onto the toy itself. So here is Megatron in his tank mode, and as you can see, he is pretty much a H-tank. A bit like Warpath, really. But yeah, he's this very nice looking green H-tank. And in this mode, he does have several abilities, several gimmicks which make it. First one is that his cannon is on a spring, and if you push it back, you'll get lights and sounds, ladies and gentlemen. And they are the original batteries. When I got this at AA, which was my first purchase for Auto Assembly, the batteries were still in it. So yeah, they still work after all this time, which is cool. The next little gimmick is that over here, on one of his tracks, you can see there's sort of like a weird sort of cable, and you activate that by, and I think I can remember this, there's a button just there, you click it and it sort of opens up this weird trap, which can be used to trap minicons probably, and you can see this nice orange paint inside it, which highlights him quite a lot. I do like it. It's probably the most pointless gimmick of all of Megatron in his tank mode, but it still works. And simply put it back, you have to push these back in order, like so, which I'm not doing properly. Like so. So, another gimmick, come over to this side, and you can see this sort of purple, this orange, sorry, launcher, and that can simply flick up, like so, and it can form a ramp for minicons to fly off with. Now, I don't have a minicon that's a plane at me on hand, so I'm just going to use Leader 1, but you can basically put Leader 1, I can find the peg on here, and it could sort of be a ramp like he's flying off, although why you'd want a Minicon to fly off, I really don't know. But it still works, and it can just fold up simply on the tank mode. Come round to this side, and another gimmick in which you can open this by simply pulling out and then flipping down. And this, again, is storage for Minicons. This leader 1 can fit there nice and snug, like so. And yeah, it works. It's a nice ramp. I like it actually. It's one of the nice. It works quite well. And then of course you've got this little claw, which you can use this button at the top to pull out, so it can look like that he's trapping Minicons. And it is on a spring, so you can spring it backwards like that, and then simply push it back in. You just fold that up, like so, and it goes back nicely. And the final gimmick for the actual tank itself is this section over here, in which you can pull out and you can open up, and it forms kind of like a prison, and you can fit a Minicon in there. You can't fit leader 1, but I can assure you a Minicon does fit in there, and it's nice. I like it. It shows that Megatron does have the ability to sort of capture them, and it simply folds back. Now, this is what I like about Megatron. All of his gimmicks fold away so that you have the nice tank still nice and smooth. And if you look at it, it doesn't really seem like it's a Transformer. Yes, you have Megatron's head there chilling out like so, but hey ho. And if you look on the bottom, it's sort of Megatron just folds up. But I still like it. And of course, the tank's actual cannon can move up and back. He can rotate only slightly though, and this is a problem. Basically, this whole turret on the tank is connected to the gimmick, which I'll show off later on in the review, and if you spin it too far round, you will break the gears. That is a warning to anyone who's thinking of buying this mould. You will break the gears if you spin this too far round. I was cautious enough not to do that the first time I got him, but it can happen, so just a warning, don't do that. Do not do that. And finally, on the top of his cannon, you can see there's 2 Minicon ports. One here, in which you can plug leader 1 in, and you can spin it around, and it creates firing noises. Like so. Yeah, it's okay. The noises on here aren't that good. You'll see more of the noises when I'm transforming him, or you'll hear them at least. But yeah, it's alright. And the Minicon gimmick in this mode is that there's a port there on the top. Simply take the Minicon, push it back, and that flips up. Now, normally that would contain 2 missiles which would fire out as that sound is playing. However, I've taken out the missiles because, frankly, they'll get lost. But it's nice, and you can see there's some added detail on the inside of the cannon, which really highlights it. So I like it. And of course, simply push it back, you just take the Minicon off, like so. So overall, I really, absolutely love this tank mode. It's accurate to the show, it's got lights and sounds which kind of work, and it's got a huge amounts of gimmicks, which don't detract from this figure in any way at all. So, I'm going to go and go on to the transformation of this figure, because the transformation is unique, and even though it's simple, it still works well. So on to that. So, while I transform this guy, I am going to talk to you more about the character of Megatron. So, before I only gave you a brief sort of rundown of Megatron in Armada, because let's face it, Megatron did a lot. He appeared in nearly every single episode of the series, and it would take me forever to sort of go through everything that he did. However, the main things are, well, firstly, he ordered Thrust to go to Earth to help them, which thus brought Tidal Wave to Earth, and then you get Megatron linking up with Tidal Wave to become even more powerful, which they did use throughout the series, which is quite cool. He also was responsible for Wheeljack's turn to the Decepticons. After Wheeljack was basically left for dead by Hotshot, Megatron was the one who rescued him, and so Wheeljack sort of owes a life debt to Megatron, thus he becomes a Decepticon. Megatron was also responsible for banishing Starscream from the Decepticons halfway through the series because of Starscream's... There you see the gimmicks. Which won't shut up. Sorry about that, yeah. The gimmicks on this figure kind of don't really work. I mean, they do, but they get very annoying. Yeah, but anyway, as I was saying, he was responsible for Starscream's banishment from the Decepticons. And Starscream and Megatron's relationship in Armada is a unique one. Megatron doesn't really trust Starscream. In fact, Megatron doesn't really trust many of his comrades or his warriors, because he knows that any one of them could betray him. And Starscream, let's face it, does betray him. He does join up with the Autobots in the end. Don't worry, that noise will go, I promise. However... Shush! Bad Megatron. Sorry about that. But yeah, Megatron is also responsible for nearly destroying the Earth with the cannon from his ship and killing Prime, as I said before. And Megatron in Armada is voiced by the very talented David Kaye, a man who brings several elements to the character of Megatron that hasn't been seen in other series. Megatron's voice in Armada is very calm. It's evil. It's very deceptive. He may be very calm in his sort of way he talks, but secretly inside he's angry and evil down to the core, which I really like his portrayal. And without the voice of David Kaye, I don't think it would have worked so well. David Kaye also voiced, I believe, Optimus Prime in animated and other such stuff. You can look him up on the Wikipedia if you want to know who he is, but I'm sure you do. But yeah, Megatron's sort of end came during the Unicron battles, which was a name they gave to the final couple of episodes of Armada. For some reason, they decided to give it a subtitle of the Unicron battles, and that was mainly because of Unicron showing up. However, it was really also because, I don't know really why, but sort of because they felt it needed a different intro, because they got a different intro with it. But when Megatron, Starscream and several of the Autobots are flung onto a planet of unknown origin, they face Nemesis Prime, who in Armada, Nemesis Prime is basically a raging animal. He's sort of half dead, half alive, and he's controlled by Sideways, who you know is a herald of Unicron. And basically, Nemesis sort of beats up Megatron, Optimus, and the rest of them quite badly. And it's only when the Minicons use their power of healing, which they use to bring Optimus Prime back, they sort of heal all of the troops, but change their colour schemes. Now, when this happens, Megatron suddenly becomes Galvatron. He has a different colour scheme, and he starts to say, "You no longer call me Megatron, I am now Galvatron." Which is strange, because nothing actually happened. All they did was just change his colour scheme. But it was a marketing ploy by Hasbro just to repackage toys in a different colour scheme. And that's where you get the Galvatron toy from Armada, which I really want to get, because it looks so nice. But that is pretty much it for the character. As I said, there's so much to him that I could be here for all day. If you want to know more, go and check out the Wikipedia, because it's a great source of Transformers knowledge. But, as I've been saying that, I have transformed Megatron, so it's time to look at his robot mode. So, here is Megatron in his robot mode, and I love this. It's thick, it's sturdy, yet it has articulation. Now, many of you who are younger viewers of this video may not know this type of plastic, because you may be used to all this new Prime stuff, this Beast Hunter stuff. Let me tell you, this is solid plastic. It's thick, it's sturdy, and it has such nice ratchet joints. Oh, look at that. And it has a cannon, which is very annoying because of the sound. But it has such thick ratchet joints. This is a quality made figure. So, articulation. His head can spin 360 degrees all the way around. Why you want to do that, I don't have a clue. His little tusks can move in and out, like so, as little claws, which can also be used on the tank mode. His arms can move about 360 degrees around, but they get caught on the bottom here. And it's weird because he sort of has an elbow joint, but then he also has a joint here, which you would class as his elbow, but then he has another joint here, which is also classed as his elbow. So quite a weird articulation, but his arm can move out like so, on a nice ratchet joint. It can also move backwards and forwards, but again that's really stiff, like so. This lovely ratchet joint, and his bottom of his hand can swivel like so. So loads of articulation in the arms, which is great for an Armada toy because many lacked the articulation which we have nowadays. As for his waist, it can't be moved because of the gimmick, which I'll show off in a minute. His legs can move out like so, so it can do the splits. They can move. They can bend inwards like so. So you've got a sort of a Metroplex. G1 Metroplex has his weird joints, so he can only move inwards. So he can sort of do a meditating pose, or he can make his legs look really messed up like that. Either way, it still works. And his toes can sort of pivot up and down, but that's only due to transformation. He also has some heel spurs on the back, but they don't really do anything. And so yeah, it's really nice. He does have gimmicks in this mode. The main gimmick, because we've seen most of the others in his tank mode, is that this Minicon port on his arm here, if you take leader 1, simply plug him in, you can cause him to, if you slide this down, Megatron has a knife. A knife suddenly appears out of his hand, which is a nice little gimmick. Why it's needed, I don't have a clue. He was never really seen with a knife in the show, but it's just a nice element they've added to the toy. I like it, and I'm not sure if it does stay in. Yes, it stays without the Minicon there, so you can have him pose like that if you want, without having the sort of baggage of the Minicon on the side. But it's nice, I like it, and simply just flick it back up if you want to get rid of it. And that's pretty much it for Megatron. I mean, the paint scheme and the head sculpt is lovely. The paint is it's just astounding, really. That back in those days they could just make bots that have nice colour to them. Now then, he does have a third mode, which is okay, I suppose. It's a mode that we saw, I believe, once in the show, during an attack on the Autobot base. But frankly, I don't much care for it. And what you have to do, get the arms out like this, flip up the bot so that his chest has suddenly become a weird looking thing, flip this around like so, and then flip it down like this, and then fold this forward. And what you have here is basically a huge cannon on the front of him, and there's a little, I don't know if you can see this, a little round button here which does connect to the turret in his vehicle mode, which is why I said you shouldn't spin it back, otherwise this gimmick won't work. And what you do is you spin it around. So I'm going to try and show it on camera and see if it works. It's temperamental. There we are. It kind of works. It's not that good, and the sounds just get very annoying after a while. You can take out the batteries if you want, and the gimmick would still work. It's just, mine doesn't really work that well. It sort of slips and you just get the noise, which again is very annoying. However, this mode does play into the fact that you can combine this figure with Armada or Energon Tidal Wave. However, I'll do a separate video to that because, frankly, it deserves a separate video. So yeah, that is it for Megatron. Very nice figure, very sturdy, a must-have if you're a fan of Armada, if you like Megatron, or frankly, if you just like a decent bot, with a good paint scheme, with a gimmick, and with, well, lots to him basically, because there's a lot that make up this toy. So, that was it for my review of Megatron. The one last thing I forgot to do before I go is the Minicom. This is Leader 1. Now, if you remember, or if you're familiar with that name, Leader 1 was, I believe, the leader of the GoBots, which was the pre-Transformers series that was on TV shows in the 80s. And it's nice that they harken back to GoBots. But Leader 1 itself is this little missile truck carrier, which I like the paint scheme. I like these translucent, not translucent, I like the orange on the top, because if you put these into the dark, they will glow. Much the same with the orange that is all over Megatron. But his transformation is quite simple. All you've got to do is flip down these, like so. Flip in the little rockets, as they'll form his back heel spurs, and simply flip around the arms, and there you have Leader 1 as a Minicon. It kind of works. I like him. It's not the worst Minicon ever, and it does look quite a lot like his show appearance, which is nice, because some of these Minicons, they're hit and miss. Some Minicons are good, some are bad. You're either a fan of them or you're not. It's a bit like Marmite, really. These are Marmite. That's a modern day equivalent. But yeah, so that's Leader 1. And that finishes my review of Armada Megatron. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been insightful. And tune in next week, in which I will be doing my pre-auto assembly video, which will then be 5 weeks to AA. God, auto assembly it's coming up fast, and I hope to see every one of you there. So until next time, guys, it's goodbye from me, and I'll see you all. See you guys.